Forget the billions we've spent on HS2. Forget the scandal with COVID PPE contracts. The UK has quietly been bleeding money into another project so absurdly mismanaged and so bureaucratically bloated that it almost feels like satire. It's called the Lower Thames Crossing, a 14-mile road and tunnel connecting Kent and Essex, and before any construction has even started, it's already cost us £1.2 billion. So I only have one question. Where's the f***ing money going? According to the Financial Times in June of 2025, that figure includes consultants, planning fees, legal teams, environmental assessments, and land purchases. And yet, not a single tunnel boring machine has been ordered, there has been no digging, there is no tunnel, there's not even been a ceremonial shovel photo op. The project itself has been kicking around since 2009, and is now forecast to cost between £9.2 billion and £10.2 billion in total. National Highways insists this is the best option to tackle congestion, but after 16 years of development, it's mostly tackled taxpayer patience. To put this in perspective, in 2023, pre-construction spending stood at around £800 million. By 2025, it's now £1.2 billion, a 50% jump in just 2 years. The planning document alone runs at a whopping 359,070 pages, which is more pages than War and Peace, the Bible, and the entire IKEA catalogue combined, or 9 times longer than the longest book ever written. We actually discovered that this figure is inaccurate, and has been inaccurately reported and repeated unchecked by mainstream media, including The Times, The Financial Times, and most importantly, politicians. The DCO planning application actually stands at 554 documents and totals 63,330 pages, which is still longer than the longest book ever. This project is so mismanaged and all over that not even the trusted outlets reporting on it are able to find accurate information. Roughly 150 staff are assigned to this project, including an 8-person management team, presumably to manage the management. But even amongst all of those 150 people, amazingly, for the largest road scheme for a generation, the examination panel does not have a single expert in traffic modelling. This should have been a prerequisite for a scheme with such a widespread and complex traffic implication. But no, of course not. They're just here to get paid. If the project goes ahead, and that's still a big if, construction might begin in 2026 and finish around 2032, meaning that Britain will have spent nearly 2 decades merely planning to build a 14-mile road. By comparison, Norway built the world's longest road tunnel, the 15-mile Lærdal Tunnel, from planning to construction in just 5 years. They finished it in 2000 for the equivalent of £130 million today. Then you have Sweden's Stockholm bypass, an 18-kilometre tunnel system. That's being delivered for around £4 billion, less than half the cost of our smaller, slower, and uglier version. In Britain, we don't build infrastructure. We build excuses and delays and still expect to get paid. This is what you might call polite corruption, the kind where nobody technically breaks the law, but everybody still gets paid. Consultants, lawyers, planners, compliance officers, a sprawling ecosystem of professional parasites feeding off of process. That £1.2 billion hasn't built anything. It simply moved money from the Treasury to private consultancy firms, disguised as due diligence, and the proposed financing model might even be worse. According to Reuters in March 2025, the Treasury is considering letting private investors fund the project in exchange for collecting toll revenue for 30 years. An internal Treasury analysis, cited by Transport Action Network, found this would cost the government £200 million more than if it just paid for the project outright. In other words, we are paying extra to privatise the profits. And then the public will pick up the bill anyway. The Guardian reported that campaigners fear tolls on the crossing could nearly triple, rising from about £4 to £8.10 for cars and more for HGVs. So, motorists pay more, the government pays more, and consultants get rich. It's the holy trinity of British infrastructure failure. This is not just one bad project, but instead it's a symptom of a country that's forgotten how to build anything. Our planning system has become a bureaucratic Ouroboros, a snake eating its own spreadsheets. Every delay creates more paperwork, every revision creates more consultants, every consultation spawns another subcommittee, and by the time you've ticked every environmental, legal, and regulatory box, the cost has doubled, and the people who caused the delay have already invoiced for their time. Meanwhile, other nations are tunneling through literal mountains for a fraction of the price. At this point, the Lower Thames Crossing isn't an infrastructure project. It's a jobs program for consultants, a money sink for lobbyists, and a symbol of Britain's decay, where ambition drowns in process and billions vanish into the paperwork abyss. Because in modern Britain, corruption doesn't look like brown envelopes anymore. It looks like PowerPoints, progress reports, and stakeholder engagement sessions. We have spent over £1 billion to build absolutely nothing, and somehow that might still still be the most British infrastructure achievement of all. So let's break this all down. First, the cost escalation is staggering. The project's initial estimate hovered around 5.3 billion in 2011. By 2025, the low-end forecast is 9 billion, almost double. And again, that's before a single cubic meter of concrete has even been poured. If you chart the increase from 2017 to 2025, it is a near linear climb, suggesting not discovery of new problems, but systemic bloat baked into the process. Then there's the financing that is structured to benefit private partners, not the public. We're looking to pay inflated returns to investors through tolls, the same playbook used by the water companies that now dump sewage into rivers. We privatise the profits, socialise the risk, and wonder why nothing works. And then there's the opportunity cost. Every year that this drags on, congestion at Dartford worsens, emissions rise further, and southeast England's economy loses billions in productivity. And yet, the only people making progress are the consultants writing 63,000-page reports. It's infrastructure as performance art, a gross illusion of progress without any physical result. And in the midst of all of this, you have to ask yourself, who's actually benefiting? Is it the consultants, billing hourly for program management and stakeholder coordination? Is it the legal firms negotiating land acquisition and planning disputes for years? Is it the developers compensated when plans change? Or is it, of course, the politicians who get to stand there in high-vis vests at photo ops and say, we're investing in Britain's future? And if you guessed all of the above, you'd be correct. But what about the public? What about the motorists still idling at Dartford? They get the bill. And maybe if they're lucky, a PowerPoint slide showing progress to date. As the Financial Times put it, the Lower Thames Crossing has become a totem of Britain's snarled up planning system. Years upon years of delays, endless compliance paperwork, and billions gone before a single spade touches soil. It is the perfect storm of caution meeting incompetence. Everyone gets paid, except the taxpayer. So how do we fix it? Cancel everything isn't a policy, but here's a few ideas that might stop the next Lower Thames Crossing before it even starts. Cap pre-construction spending. Set a clear rule. Once pre-construction costs exceed 10% of total projected spend, there must be an independent review. If no contracts are awarded within 3 years, pause the funding and re-justify the scheme. At least then someone has to explain why the planning document alone is longer than the collected works of Shakespeare. Benchmark against other countries. If Norway can build a 15-mile tunnel for 130 million and we're spending 1.2 billion on planning, something's wrong. If comparable projects abroad cost less than 50% of ours, that requires a value for money hearing in Parliament. One of the most important things we need to do is reform financing. We need to avoid models that turn toll roads into 30-year private cash machines. If the state can borrow at lower rates than investors, build it publicly. And if the tolls are inevitable, publish the full toll schedule before approval, not after the contracts are signed. And finally, we need to tie consultant pay to results. There can be no more blank checks for project support. Consultants should only receive full payment when key deliverables are completed. If they miss milestones, they should lose bonuses. That might finally align their incentives with public outcomes. The Lower Thames Crossing isn't just about one tunnel. It is a microcosm of how Britain has come to conflate activity with achievement. We have perfected the art of managing projects rather than delivering them. And every time it happens, from HS2 to this, the same playbook repeats. A glossy launch, years of consultation, ballooning costs, and an eventual quiet admission that maybe, just maybe, it's unaffordable. So when people ask why Britain can't seem to build anymore, the answer isn't just red tape. It's who profits from the tape being read in the first place. At this stage, the Lower Thames Crossing has become less of an infrastructure project and more of a metaphor for modern Britain. A nation obsessed with process, allergic to delivery, and perpetually surprised when nothing gets done. We've spent £1.2 billion to build absolutely nothing. Not a tunnel, not a bridge, not even a car park, and yet it's still somehow dubbed as progress. So the next time a politician on TV says we're investing in infrastructure, you should ask, how much of that is for actual construction and how much is for consultants? Corruption once upon a time came in envelopes. Today it comes in PDFs. And in that sense, the Lower Thames Crossing might just be the most British scandal of them all. Nobody stole the money. They earned it by not building a thing.